I's Marshal Butler, 88 years old, and I was born on December 25. I knows it was Christmas Day, for I was a gift to my folks. Anyhow, I's the only nigger that knows exactly how old he be. I just remembers the year, but you white folks can figure that out. My mammy was Harriet Butler, and my pappy was John Butler, and we all was raised in Washington Wilkes. Mammy was a Frank collar nigger, and her man was of the tribe of Ben Butler, some miles down the road. It was one of them trial marriages. They's tried so hard to see each other, but old Ben Butler says 2 passes a week was enough to see my mammy on the collar plantation. When the war was completed, Pappy came home to us. We was a family of 10, 4 females, called Sally, Liza, Ellen, and Lottie, and 6 strong bucks called Charlie, Elissa, Marshal, Jack, Haywood, and little Johnny the baby. The collar plantation was big, and I don't know the size of it. It must have been big, for there was 250 niggers aching to go to work. I guess they must have been aching after the work was done. Marse Frank bossed the place himself. There was no overseers. He raised cotton, corn, wheat, and everything we uns ate. There was no market to bring the goods to. Marse Frank was like a feudal lord of back history, as my good-for-nothing grandson would say. He is the one with the book learning from Atlanta. Waste of time filling up a nigger's head with that trash. What that boy needs is muscleology, just like my head and hands. My mammy was maid in the collar home, and she had many fine dresses. Some of them was give to her by her missus. Pappy was a field nigger for old Ben Butler, and I worked in the field when I was knee-high to a grasshopper. We uns ate our breakfast while it was dark, and we trooped to the fields at sunup, carrying our lunch with us. Nothing fancy, but just good rib-sticking victuals. We come in from the fields at sundown, and there was a good meal waiting us in the slave quarters. My good master give us rations every second Monday, and all day Monday was taken to separate the wheat from the chaff. That is, the victuals had to be organized to be marched off to the proper dispository. Marse Frank gave Mammy 4 acres of ground to till for herself and us chillins. We raised cotton, yes, sir, 1 bale of it, and lots of garden truck. Our boss man give us Saturday as a holiday to work our 4 acres. All the niggers worked hard. The cotton pickers had to pick 200 pounds of cotton a day, and if a nigger didn't, Marse Frank would take the nigger to the barn and beat him with a switch. He would tell the nigger to holler loud as he could, and the nigger would do so. Then the old missus would come in and say, "What you doing, Frank?" "Beating a nigger," would be his answer. "You let him alone. He is my nigger." And both Marse Frank and the whipped nigger would come out of the barn. We all loved Marse and Mistress. No, we was never whipped for stealing. We never stole anything in those days, much. We sure frolicked Saturday night. That was our day to howl, and we howled. Our gals would sure dance, and when we was thirsty, we had lemonade and whiskey. No, sir, we never mixed no water and whiskey. Them that wanted lemonade got it. The gals all liked it. Niggers never got drunk those days. We was scared of the patty rollers. And swell music, a fiddle and a tin can, and one nigger would beat his hand on the can, and another nigger would beat the strings of a fiddle, mocked out with broom straws. It was almost like a banjo. I remembers we sung Little Liza Jane and green grows the willow tree. The frolic broke up in the morning about 2 o'clock, and we all scattered to whichever way we was going. We put on clean clothes on Sunday and go to church. We went to the white church. Us niggers sat on one side and the white folks sat on the other. We was baptized in the church. The pool room was right in the church. If we went visiting, we had to have a pass. If nigger went out without a pass, the patty rollers would get him. The white folks were the patty rollers and had masks on their faces. They looked like niggers with the devil in their eyes. They used no paddles, nothing but straps with their belt buckle fastened on. Yes, sir, I got paddle. It happened like this. I'd left home one Thursday to see a gal on the Palmer Plantation, 5 miles away. Some gal. No, I didn't get a pass. The boss was so busy. Everything was fine until my return trip. I was 2 miles out and 3 miles to go. There come the patty rollers. I was not scared, only I couldn't move. They gave me 30 licks. I ran the rest of the way home. They was belt buckles all over me. I ate my victuals off the porch railing. Some gal, was worth the paddling to see that gal. Would do it over again to see Mary the next night. We niggers were a healthy lot. If we was really sick, Marse Frank would send for Dr. Fielding Flickin of Washington. If just a small cold, the nigger would go to the woods and get catnip and roots and such things. If tummy ache, there was the castor oil. The white folks say children cry for it. I done my crying afterwards. For sore throat, there was alum. Everybody made their own soap. If hand was burned, would use soap as the poultice and place it on the hand. Soap was made out of grease, potash, and water and boiled in a big iron pot. If you cut your finger, use kerosene with a rag round it. Turpentine was for sprains and bad cuts. For constipation, use tea made from sheep droppings. And if away from home, the speed of the feet do not match the speed of the remedy. No, boss, I's not superstitious and I's believe in no signs. I just carry a rabbit's foot for luck. But I do believe the screeching of an owl is a sign of death. I found it to be true. I had my uncle named Haywood. He stayed at my house and was sick for a month, but wasn't so bad off. One night, Uncle had a relapse, and that same night a screech owl came along and sat on the top of the house, and the owl, whooped 3 times, and next morning Uncle got worser, and at 11 o'clock he died. I does believe in signs. When the rooster crows in the house, it is sign of a stranger coming. If foot itches, you is going to walk a strange land. If cow lows at house at night, death will be round the house in short time. If sweeping out ashes at night, that is bad luck, for you is sweeping out your best friend. Remember, your closest friend is your worst enemy. If you want to go courting, it would take a week or so to get your gal. Sometimes some fool nigger would bring a gal a present, like pooled candy and such like. I had no time for such foolishness. You would pop the question to boss man to see if he was willing for you to marry the gal. There was no minister or boss man to marry you. No limitations at all. Boss man would just say, don't forget to bring me a little one or two for next year. The boss man would fix a cottage for 2, and there you was established for life. Marse Frank had plenty of visitors to see him, and his 3 gals was excuse for anyone for miles around to come trooping in. He entertained mostly on Tuesday and Thursday night. I remembers them nights for what was left over from the feast the niggers would eat. Dr. Fielding Flicker, Bill Pope, Judge Reese, General Robert Toombs, and Alexander Stevens from Crawfordville all would come to Marsh Frank's big house. General Frank Toombs lived in Washington and had a big plantation about a mile from the city. He was a farmer and very rich. The general was a big man, about 6 feet tall, heavy, and had a full face. Always had unlighted cigars in his mouth. He was the first man I saw who smoked 10-cent cigars. Niggers used to run to get the stumps, and the lucky nigger who got the stump could even sell it for a dime to the other niggers, for after all, wasn't it General Toombs' cigar? The general never wore expensive clothes and always carried a crooked handled walking stick. I's never heard him say nigger, never heard him cuss. He always helped us niggers, gave us a nickel or dimes at times. I saw a red cloud in the west in 1860. I knew war was brewing. Marsh Frank went to war. My uncle was his man and went to war with him. Uncle brought him back after the Battle of Gettysburg, wounded. He died later. We all loved him. My mistress and her boys ran the plantation. The Bluecoats came to our place in 62 and 63. They took everything that was not red hot or nailed down. The war made no changes. We did the same work and had plenty to eat. The war was over. Now, we didn't know we was free until a year later. I stayed on with Marsh Frank's boys for 20 years. I did the same work for $35 to $40 a year with rations thrown in. I lived so long because I tells no lies. I never spent more than 50 cents for a doctor in my life. I believe in whiskey, and that keeps me going. And let me tell you, I's always going to be a nigger till I die.